the summer of 2022, I went on a 6-week-long solo trip to the UK. I got to experience some of the most amazing sights, some incredible food, and I got to live like a local. Today, I want to take you back to that trip and sort of go through some of the best things I saw and some of the best food that I ate to hopefully inspire you to maybe go explore the UK for yourself. I also think I've got some really good insider knowledge to give you. I grew up with a British dad, so I've kind of grown up around British culture. I have friends that live in the UK, and I actually got to see some of them while I was over there. And I've just grown up consuming British content, whether that's TV or on YouTube. So I'm kind of in with the culture and I can appreciate it myself. So I hope through this video that I can help you appreciate it and get yourself to live like a local as well. Now, I did go to a very large portion of the UK on my trip. I kind of went everywhere, but this video today is just going to focus on London, as that was sort of my base for my trip. I was staying in an Airbnb in Croydon, which is just a little bit south of London. It's a quick 15-minute train ride into the city, and it was perfect. It acted as sort of my base. I could train into the city, go explore, or I could go and train to other places because the British transport system is really good like that, unlike a lot of our Canadian transport. The Airbnb I was staying in was a little studio apartment, so that meant that I was able to cook for myself since I was there for such a long period of time. And I really enjoyed that because I got to really experience living like a local. I got to go shop at British grocery stores, which was almost a culture shock, but I'll get into that in a minute. I got to use British ingredients, which are amazingly high quality, and I was able to order delivery from local places, but it also meant I didn't have to eat out every night for 6 weeks. So when I landed, one of the first things I did, well, I guess I checked into my Airbnb first, but then one of the first things I did was I went out to find a local grocery store near me, and pretty much just around the corner from where I was staying was a Co-op, which is one of the British grocery chains. If you're a Canadian, you know how crazy food prices are right now and sort of have been for the last few years. This is where the culture shock came in. And I knew from talking to my friends that prices were different in the UK versus here, but I didn't know just how drastic the prices would be. The main thing I noticed, I kid you not, I went into a grocery store, I went to the bread aisle because who doesn't love bread? The loaves of bread, like your typical, basic Wonder Bread type loaf, 60p, which is 60 pence, or in our terms would be about 60 cents for a whole loaf of bread. Now, if you put the exchange rate in there, even if we're saying that the pound is about 2 times a Canadian dollar, which is a bit less than that, but we'll just say 2 times for the sake of it. 60 pence would be about $1.20 Canadian for one loaf of bread. And I don't know about you, but every grocery store near me, a loaf of basic bread is at least $3. So that alone, I almost just wanted to grab everything off the shelf, but I realized I couldn't do that because I would never be able to eat it as just one person. And of course, I say that knowing prices are all relative. Canadian minimum wage and cost of living is typically higher, but still, if we're just breaking it down kind of factually, I was astounded by how cheap, I guess, their food was. Now, one of the other stores that I went to almost right away was a Marks & Spencer's. Now, if you know what I'm about to say, you know. Marks & Spencer's has this gummy candy that, I don't want to say it's a part of their culture, but it almost is. So I have a bag left. I hope you can see that. They're called Percy Pigs. They're these little pig-faced gummies. They're multiple flavors and they're literally amazing. This is my last package and I am waiting until a special occasion to open it because I could eat a whole bag in one sitting. They're so good. And when I say you can find anything that's Percy Pig themed, I mean it. I'll input some pictures here to show you, but I found Percy Pig backpacks, Percy Pig bath mats. Oh, what else was there? There were little cakes that were Percy Pig. Like the entire aisle that I went to find these, all different kinds of flavors. The whole wall essentially was Percy Pigs. I was in heaven because I love these. So I think, I don't know how many bags I bought, too many. So it's probably a good thing that I don't have many left. But if you're going to the UK, definitely get at least a bag, try them, and then you'll be going back to get more after because they're just good. They're not too sweet. Oh, they're just perfect. I also want to mention a few sort of British, I guess you could say fast food staples that I frequented a lot and that I just kind of know of, that I definitely recommend that you check out just to kind of, again, get in on that local British culture. So the first one is Costa Coffee. If you're a Canadian and you love your Tim Hortons just as much as I do, Costa Coffee is essentially their equivalent. You can find a Tim Hortons on almost every block here, and Costa is kind of like that in the UK. Costa is sort of their go-to, not the best high quality coffee, but it's just, you know, it's going to be decent when you go. So if you can go and have something, I had a couple frappes, or if you want to go and get a hot coffee or something, that's definitely a place to check out, just to kind of have their version of Tim Hortons. Although there are a few Tim Hortons locations in the UK now, which is kind of cool. So if you're nearby one of those, maybe you don't even have to go to Costa. Another one that I don't know if I would class it as fast food necessarily, but to me it's a British staple because I grew up hearing about it online, Nando's. And I know they were introduced into Canada a few years ago, but at least the ones near me all closed pretty quickly, and I knew that I wanted to try it in the UK before I tried it here, just because that's kind of where I'd heard that it comes from. Don't quote me, I think that's where it comes from, I'm not too sure. But I wanted to make sure I had it like the real thing while I was over there, so I of course had to try it. I think it was the medium spice, and it was like a butterflied chicken breast. It was actually very good. Now, I wouldn't say it's like top quality level food, but if you're looking for a good meal, it's a good place to go because, you know, again, it's going to be decent and at least taste pretty good. Another place that I went to, I couldn't even count how many times just because of the convenience, was Pret a Manger. Now, Pret a Manger is a like French term, as we would say Pret a Manger. However, if you're a local, or if you want to seem like you're a local, in the UK, you'll just call it Pret. That's it. So Pret has all kinds of pre-made sandwiches or hot foods that you can just kind of grab. The first time I had it while I was there, I was exploring through the whole city of London. My kind of first real day, I trained into London and just walked around to kind of get a lay of the land and make sure I sort of caught my bearings and knew where the main sites were. And then I was in Victoria Station. I went in and I was trying to decide what I wanted, and then I saw a meatball wrap. So if you can think of like a meatball sub but put in a wrap form, every time I went to Pret while I was there, I had one. And I think I had at least 3 throughout the whole trip, and that's saying something. Like, that's at least 3 days of meals that I chose to eat there. It was hot, it was tasty. Definitely recommend Pret if you're looking for something quick, or if you're just looking to grab something and go. It's a really good choice, and a lot of locals choose it as well. Now, if you know anything about sort of British culture hype, you'll have heard about the next thing I'm about to talk about, which is Greggs and their sausage rolls. Years and years ago, when Greggs came out with a vegan sausage roll, there was like this whole uproar because the British were like, why are you making a vegan version of meat? And it was this whole thing because they didn't want to ruin the classic Greggs sausage roll. I didn't try a vegan one. However, my one British friend took me to a Greggs for the first time because he said he needed to see me experience this for the first time. And while we all might think of British food being kind of bland or flavorless, I'm sorry if that's offensive, but it's kind of true, I promise you, these sausage rolls are the opposite. They're hot, they're seasoned amazingly, the texture of the pastry is like perfect, the meat, it's just, I would go back there for Greggs alone almost. So again, if you're looking for something quick to walk in, you can almost find a Greggs pretty much anywhere. So I definitely recommend going if you're in a pinch for food, but also just go. Like, make time to go there to try their sausage rolls. They do have a whole bunch of other hot pastries and things, but at least try the sausage rolls, or have sausage rolls and more. While I was in London, I had two of my university friends and roommates come out for about 5 days, and we got to do those main London tourist attractions together. So things like the London Eye, Big Ben, Westminster Abbey. We also went up the Shard, Tower Bridge, all the classic tourist things I kind of got to do with them, but I also did a lot solo, and I can tell you it's essentially exactly the same doing it with friends or without. On our first day sort of exploring the city, we went to Madame Tussauds, and then we went to a classic British pub for dinner. And I knew a lot about kind of pub culture because of the friends that I have over there, but this one really threw me off a little bit, because the pub we went into, everyone seemed to know each other, because that's just pub culture over there. Everyone knows each other, or if they don't, they're talking to you and kind of getting to know you, and they're quite friendly. So, because we were at a British pub, I had to have classic pub food. And to me, one of those first things that stands out is shepherd's pie. However, this pub actually had a lentil shepherd's pie, which I'd never tried before, and instead of typical mashed white potatoes on top, it was a combination of sweet potatoes and carrot mashed together and put on top and then baked in the oven, and it was really, really good. The lentils were flavorful, the mash on top was amazing, and of course it came with a little side of gravy that I doused it in, and it was a really, really good meal. So if you're looking for a pub, definitely just pop into any pub, because they will be more than willing to welcome you in with open arms. One of the first mornings that we stepped out into the city to go explore, we wanted to go eat breakfast somewhere, and we stumbled upon this place. We got off at London Bridge Station, and we were walking around and stumbled upon this place called the Breakfast Club. The food here was, again, incredible. Some of the food I ate on this trip is the best I've had in a long, long time. I had the chicken and waffles, and it came with like a honey maple sort of glaze, and the waffle was the perfect texture. The chicken had a nice crispiness to it, and then the little maple glaze that you could put on it just added that extra level of sweetness, and it was really, really good. I was so sad I couldn't quite finish my meal. I had a few bites left, but we were going out into the city, so I couldn't take any leftovers home, and I'm still sad about it. I also did try some of their mac and cheese, which unfortunately is not on the menu anymore, but it was a small dish of mac and cheese that was topped with cornflakes. You know how sometimes you'll get breadcrumbs on top? This was cornflakes, and it was a really good, cheesy, hearty meal. Granted, we say breakfast, but we were really brunching, essentially. And again, this is a really good place to go for breakfast. Not too long of a wait, although we were there on a weekday, so I can't say anything about what it would be like on a weekend. One attraction that I hadn't really heard too much about before, but I definitely think you should put on your list, is the Shard. It's a really tall, pointy glass building. It's right by London Bridge. You honestly can't miss it. And you get to go up to, I believe, the 72nd floor, and you get amazing panoramic views of the city. You can see all the sights from up there, amazing views. They have multiple bars up there. There's a restaurant up there that you can eat at if you want. So we got all dolled up and went up the Shard. And we did this kind of close to the end of the week, so we could kind of reflect on everything we saw. It was just a really good time and amazing views from up there. I definitely think you should go. Now, before we went up the Shard, we actually went to dinner at an Italian spot, because who doesn't love Italian food? And the place we went to was called, I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. The logo, I'll put a picture of it. The logo is just the letter O, but the restaurant is called Au Vert. That's the pronunciation I'm going with. Apologies if I'm wrong, but it was a very small but very authentic feeling Italian restaurant. We were the only people there when we went. It was about 5 p.m. when we went, and I don't know whether it was just the day that we were there didn't seem to be too busy, but the food here was so, so good. I definitely recommend if you're looking for some good Italian while you're away. I had the raviolo amalfitano, which was like a ravioli, obviously, with a sort of lemon ricotta filling in it. And then it was in like a light tomato sauce with some Parmesan cheese. It was so delicious. And you can just tell by the picture, like they put it in front of me and I knew I was about to have one of the best meals of my life. It was so delicious, and it's vegetarian if you're looking for an option like that as well. Both of my friends actually had the gnocco alla sorrentina, which is gnocchi, and it was just in a nice tomato sauce, but the flavor was amazing and it wasn't too heavy, because sometimes you can have a gnocchi that's a little heavy, but this one was really good. And then we also had, I think it was a daily special because I don't think it's on their menu anymore, but we had a profiterole for dessert. We just split it between all of us, and it was all amazing food. The drinks are really good. My friends split a bottle of wine, and I just definitely think that this is a place that you should check out if you're looking for a really good Italian. Something else other than your typical London sights that is a must-do for any Harry Potter fan is the Warner Brothers studio tour. Now, technically the tour is not in central London. However, it is super easy to get to. We took a train from King's Cross station, where you actually will find the platform 9 3/4, and you get to take a really fun photo of you pushing the cart through the wall as if you're heading on your way to Hogwarts. So definitely stand in the line for that. It's worth it, and it's a lot of fun. You get to pick your house, and then they kind of have your scarf blowing behind you. It's a lot of fun. But we went from King's Cross on a train to Watford Junction, and then when you get off the train in Watford Junction, there's actually a shuttle bus that will take you right from the train station to the studio, and then you can get one coming back as well. And that was super easy. Years ago, I went with my parents and we drove, and I'll never forget, it was such a struggle to find. Our maps directed us the wrong way so many times, so I would definitely rely on the public transport and shuttle, because it wasn't that busy. Even if the shuttle fills up, you'll get the next one and it'll be relatively quick. If you're a huge Harry Potter fan, you get to see some of the costumes, the sets, you get some behind the scenes and sort of insider knowledge into how they made the movies. And they always have new exhibits popping up. Like there was a monsters exhibit going on while we were there, and you actually got to pull out a mandrake from the herbology room, which was really cool, and they were screaming at you. So I definitely recommend going if you're a Harry Potter fan. But even if you're not a diehard Harry Potter fan, I still think you should go, personally. But something you have to try while you're there is the butterbeer. You get a souvenir mug, some butterbeer, and it's got this amazing bubbly foam on top. It's non-alcoholic, of course, but it's so good. And you get to drink it essentially on the set, and you feel like you're a wizard. But something that surprised me that I didn't know existed was they had butterbeer flavored ice cream. Since I did have both, I would say you probably don't need both, because I was struggling to finish my butterbeer drink by the end of it. So maybe pick one or the other. If you're going to pick one, I would say go for the classic butterbeer, but just if you're looking for a refreshing treat, maybe try that ice cream. It was really good. It tasted kind of like butterscotch, but not. Now, while I did do a lot of the London touristy things with my friends from university, I did go and explore the city a lot myself. And there's one day in particular that I still think about now, 2 years later. And this day I was going to do a tour of the Royal Opera House. Now, I definitely recommend this tour if you're like a theater or dance kind of buff. It was really cool getting to see the beautiful building, the beautiful theater, but you also got a little backstage tour. You got to see a costume room where they made costumes for everything. And then one of my favorite souvenirs that I got is a little Christmas bauble that has pieces of a costume in it, and I put that on my Christmas tree every year, and I think back to this amazing day that I had. I was quite tired at this point. It was close to the end of my trip, and on my way to the opera house, I was a little early and I needed something to eat. So I figured I would just go and find something nearby. And not very far at all from the opera house, I saw one of those chalkboard signs on the ground that listed a whole bunch of things. They had jacket potatoes, or like a baked potato that you get to kind of choose your toppings, and so many other things that sounded delicious, and I just had to go in. Now this place is called Cafe Verona. And when I tell you this is probably the best and most memorable experience I had on this whole trip, I'm not kidding. So when you walk into this place, they have another giant chalkboard all along the back with even more things than that tiny chalkboard had. And you go in and you order at the cash, and then you can either sit and they'll bring the food to you, or you can take it to go, which is what a lot of people were doing, just coming in, grabbing their lunch to take it back to work. And if I worked there, believe me, I would probably go here every day. I'm not kidding you, you have to go and try their food. And I'll explain to you why I'm saying that. So I go in and I'm looking at the blackboard, and then I see risotto. And I'm like, oh, I could go for that. That sounds really good. So I walk up and I'm like, oh, what can I get for you? And I said, I'll have the risotto. And then off to the left, kind of behind, there's like a little hot table where they kind of get the food from. There's a man there who was dressed in all white. Like, he seemed like, to me, he was either the head chef or the owner or something like that. He was very friendly. And he said, oh, we're actually out of the risotto at the moment. What else can I get you? So he's like, come take a look. So I walk over and I'm scanning this hot tray area, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, it all looks so good. I don't know what to choose. And he looks at me and he goes, I know exactly what you're going to like. Go have a seat and then I'll bring it to you. So of course I go sit down, take off my camera bag, put everything I had down. So I sit down and I'm just kind of waiting and I'm looking around, absorbing the atmosphere. And then the best part, this man, I wish I knew his name because I would shout him out right now, but I did not get it and I would regret that. He brings over this rectangular plate and puts it in front of me. And the smell that came out of this, I can't even explain it. It just smelled delicious and creamy, I guess is the best way to put it. The dish was essentially rice with like a creamy chicken, cheese sort of flavored. There was definitely Parmesan in there. This sauce. Again, I don't know what the dish was. It was like a mystery dish, but it was amazing. And just the experience, like this man, you could tell had so much passion and love that he put into this food, and he just wanted to spread that joy to everybody else, and it was just amazing. I wish that I had found this place earlier in my trip, because I definitely would have made countless more trips there to try everything that they had. But I'm literally waiting for the day that I can go back to London and go back to this restaurant, because I just loved my experience there so much. So definitely check out Cafe Verona if you're in London. Okay, so I don't want to bore you anymore with all the amazing food that I saw. I also don't want to make you any more jealous, because I'm getting jealous of myself at this point. But this 6 weeks while I was there, this solo trip was such a good time, and I got to see so many amazing things and eat so much amazing food in other cities and other countries. I got to go to Bristol, I went to Brighton a bunch, I went to Cambridge, Dover, I went to Cardiff in Wales, Dublin in Ireland, Edinburgh in Scotland. I also met my university friends out in Paris first before we came back to London. So if you're interested, I will definitely make more videos on where I think you should eat in all those places that I went. But for now, that's it. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.